A mudder, by definition, is a racehorse that runs well through muddy conditions. One of the toughest and most resilient racehorses you find. A fracas? Well, we all know what that is. That's the noise, the commotion, the scuffle. So we coined the term Mudder Fracas, which means a determined individual weathering through harsh conditions, the commotion, the naysayers, the noise, to bring their dreams to reality. Today we're speaking with one of them. He's on a mission to turn touch into gold. How, you might ask? How bold is he Midas? They create sensors that communicate with your senses through touch musically. Well, that's senseless. Well, most art is subjective. Imagine if Mozart was rejected for putting pressure on keys and tapping them dramatically. Where would music be? Introducing the founder of Embodme, Edgar Hemery. Welcome to Mudder Fracas. Who dare? We haven't officially started, but I really like that view. Oh gosh, it's beautiful. That's a good thing about what you do and like having the products, the instruments and stuff like that.
Okay, so this is the Erae 2, the second version of Erae Touch. And as you can see, there is a panel here which is touch sensitive.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. Let's get it cracking. Edgar. Thanks for doing this. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
When is the last time we saw each other?
I
First
think it
and last
was
time.
in October, at the beginning of the fall in Vienna, Austria.
Vienna, that's what it was, right? At the Cult Tech Summit.
That's right.
Okay. I was blown away, but I'll tell you the story later. Let me kind of like work my way to it. I'm just going to introduce a small introduction. Again, thanks for doing this. I'm Yao. I'm a music tech entrepreneur, as you may or may not know. Founded a couple of startups, ups, down, ups, I like to call them. And that's what I love doing. I love the idea of conceptualizing and then building and then making something out of that building. So this is what Mudder Fracas is all about. And that's what we're doing here, is speaking to people who are just creating and building amazing companies, movements, communities, whatever it may be. So welcome. You want to do a little bit of introduction? Who's Edgar?
So technically, I'm co-founder and CEO of Embodme, which is a music tech startup created in 2018 in Paris. And so who I am, I would say, a musician and a technician, scientist. And since pretty much my undergrad, I was combining both, playing in a band. So I studied at the University of Edinburgh, physics and music. So that was already like the start of, this long story that resulted in the creation of Embodme, where I was both, trying to study sound acoustics, signal processing, but also algorithmic composition using, AI or computer vision to interact with both sound and visuals. So I was doing that during my undergrads, and then later came to Paris and then Berlin to either play with my band at the time or study more, advanced techniques. I
Yeah.
spent a year at the IRCAM. I don't know if you heard of IRCAM. IRCAM. It's a center for research in sound
Yeah.
and music.
Yes.
In,
Yes. Yes.
it's a very unique place. I would
And
say.
sorry, I know about it because of you, actually, because I believe, like, obviously, I did my research. I like to call it stalking. So yeah, and positive stalking. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
IRCAM is a very interesting place because it's some people call it the French Concorde. This very expensive plane that was never profitable, so they just kept it out of pride. But they had to
Kept
at
it out
some
of pride.
point, just cancel the whole project because it was just like consuming too much money. And so IRCAM is sometimes considered to like French Concorde because it's a beautiful building in the center of Paris, right next to one of the biggest art museum, Centre Pompidou for modern art. It's
Yeah.
actually part of the same, and they have about 100 researchers working on the most advanced but also niche audio research.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
from there came up so many innovations, like you wouldn't believe. For example, one of the most sold ever synth in the world is based on FM synthesis by Yamaha. That
Yes.
was
Yeah.
very popular since the 80s until now.
And was it conceptualized there? And
Right,
like,
yeah, it
did
was.
Yamaha come along and maybe acquire the rights to the technology? What's the story behind that?
Well, the story behind that is it was. I think it was at the time he was a postdoc researcher, John Chowning, American
Okay.
guy from California.
Okay.
Spent a couple of years in Paris at the very beginning of this whole FM synthesis techniques. And then he just went back to California and created a company, was sold
Okay.
the license. Yeah, sold the license to Yamaha. But then there was another story like that when IRCAM invented one of the first real-time programming environment for music, which resulted in a software called Pure Data, which was open source. Very
Oh,
cool
wow.
software where you can just like drag and drop blocks, elements, like an oscillator, a LFO filter, and so on, and build a synth in real time by just connecting blocks and patching the blocks together. And this, again, was conceptualized at IRCAM. And then later on, a Californian company called Cycling 74 rebranded the
Cycling
whole thing.
74. Okay.
Cycling 74, yeah.
I'll look them up.
Rebranded the whole thing, and it became Max MSP, which gained some popularity, and then was eventually acquired by Ableton Live, I think 5 or 6
Oh,
years
wow.
ago. Yeah.
Okay. 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 I see the journey. Okay.
So yeah, many stories like this in the world of audio and synths happened to be grounded at IRCAM. So yeah, I was lucky enough to spend 1 year there and
Wow.
started to work on audiovisual interactive systems. There's a whole team at IRCAM where they work on sound to gesture mapping. So
Yes.
what is mapping is the action of saying, for example, this gesture will create this sound, and
Yeah.
it can be very direct, like if you turn a knob and it just controls the filter for a synth. But then
Sure.
you can also say, train an algorithm to recognize a waving gesture, and whenever I'm doing this waving gesture, replay a sound that I've just recorded with my voice, something
Okay.
like that.
Right. So, for example, if you say like a waving gesture in relation to sound to gesture, right? If I'm waving, it's mapping the movement of my hand, and then how does that translate into sound? Or have I got it wrong?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and just doing that, there are so many ways to do it. You could either train the system to recognize the whole waving gesture
Yeah.
and say,
So, yeah.
okay, the system is 99% confident that it is the same gesture. And then once the gesture is done, just trigger one sound. But you can also go in some more advanced techniques where at the first frames, so the first like frames of gesture,
Yeah.
the beginning of your wavering gesture, you ask the system to already put some probabilities that it will be eventually this gesture that you've trained. So you can already start to play the sound, and you don't wait until the end of a gesture to play the sound. And
Yeah.
for that, the sound could be also divided into grains of sounds, very short grains of sound.
Yeah.
Like you cut the sound into very
Yeah.
small fraction of samples. And this is actually called granular synthesis. And
Granular
so you use
synthesis. Okay.
yeah. And this is how you could, one way to replay the sound is through granular synthesis and AI, basically.
Okay. Pause there, right? Because this is kind of related to how I came across Embodme. It's Embodme, right? Or Embodme?
Embodme, yeah.
Embodme. But what? Okay, I'm going on so many tangents. I want to know where the name came from, but we can come back to that because whilst we're talking about this, this is kind of how I came across you, right? In Vienna, right at the museum's quarter, I was in the summit. I don't know if you were in the same summit room or if you were in the other accelerator room, and a gentleman by the name of what's his name, Professor Eduardo Rec Miranda. Does that sound familiar?
No, it doesn't.
I'm going to tell him you don't know who he is. Um, he's like professor at Plymouth University.
Okay.
He was one of the speakers in the summit, and he was basically speaking on the relationship between our like music sensory, between touch and sound. It's kind of similar to what you were speaking about, and it was a really really good keynote. You may have, I think you may have been just before him because you did a demo on stage at some point, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not talking about the after party. You did a demo on stage at some point. But anyway, Professor Eduardo was talking about the relationship between like, sensory movement and like touch and sound. I'm probably like messing the description up, but it's okay. And when he did this, I was blown away. I was like, wow, because he was essentially speaking about the foundations to creating the next experience of musical instruments, digital music instruments, and how AI can help to assume what it thinks we're trying to communicate to produce the sound, etc. Right? This is how I digested it. So I heard the first 10 minutes or 5 minutes of his presentation, and I spent the next 30 minutes of his presentation fantasizing about, oh my God, how can I create? He gave me the seeds I needed to start to ideate on what the next level of a musical instrument could be, I promise you. So I missed like 75% of his presentation because I was dreaming. And then right after that, and needless to say, they served some amazing wine as well, so that kind of stimulated the imagination.
I had some good.
Yeah, they had some. It was like some, I don't know, dare I say, like 90-year-old from somebody's cellar. But I spent the next 30 minutes figuring out, wow, what does that instrument look like? And then right after that, more or less, was the after party. And I remember I was in the room where the after party was. It was just in the next room. And I think they dimmed the lights. Everything was like fluorescent, purple and pink. And then, the music like starts coming. It's like this kind of synthish, slow vibrations, electronic. And I'm still thinking about the session that I came from Professor Eduardo. And I'm like, these guys are really cramping my style because I'm now ideating on this music instrument. Like I do that a lot, right? I go on tangents with ideas. Hence why I decided to do Mudder Fracas, because I was like, yeah, I'll stop coming up with these ideas and talk to people who are actually doing the ideas. And then this sound in the background just kept on going, and it was like progressive, and it was vibing, and I was like, okay, what on earth is this? And I turned around and I looked on the stage, and I think I saw your company. I saw the musical instruments, and like, what on earth is that? Because you had this artist, this lady on stage, yes, demonstrating playing the instrument, and I was completely blown away. And I looked, and I was like standing alone in the corner, and everybody was on the dance floor, and I was like, wow, what on earth is that instrument? And it was almost like what I was trying to figure out had already been built and was on the stage. And that's how I came across your company. And this is why, I don't know if you remember, but after the show, I came straight to you.
Yeah,
I didn't even know you were the guy, honestly, or one of the team. Like, I just thought, like, okay, who's that guy playing with the instrument? Because the show is finished and he's standing there playing with the instrument. I'm also going to go and play with the instrument next to him so I don't get in trouble. And I think I introduced myself and I found out, oh, okay, this is Edgar. This is his company. So that's the story about how I came across Embodme. You know, I
that's really
just thought I'd
nice.
say it then. You know, but I cut you off and you were explaining. You
No,
were
no, at all. I mean, yeah, we joined the Caltech association. I think it's an association. Well, it was at first as the accelerator, so we were accelerated in their program for a year. I think it was in 2021. So that was just when the product came out. We originally did a Kickstarter in 2020. That was
all
right
right.
in the middle of the
Pandemic.
pandemic. So
Yep.
so we had some delays on the production because one of the electric component in the electronic component in the product was completely running out of stock everywhere. There was a huge shortage of this component worldwide, so we couldn't produce. We even though we pre-sold the product on Kickstarter, we couldn't produce it
Oh
for a
wow.
year. That was yeah, that was a good start.
Wow. So you sold out or you sold on Kickstarter and then just like you guys have to wait a year for us to
Yeah,
make.
yeah. So like people were actually very nice to
Yeah.
us. Yeah,
Oh,
and
congratulations on
so
that because to be able to make them wait and then be worth the wait and eventually deliver, that's,
yeah, no, that was crazy. And so 1 year later, we did the Caltech Accelerator. We met tons of very nice people. We had many ways to showcase the product. And after being, locked down for so long, people were very enthusiastic about, seeing new products, new people, going to shows. And then suddenly we had actually a good second year of existence.
Mhm.
And some very popular artists started to play with the Erae Touch, which is the first version,
Yeah.
our first product, basically. And no, that was crazy. Like after maybe 2 years, we had huge artists like Coldplay toured, is still touring with for Erae Touch.
No.
Oh yeah, no, that was
Do you know? Oh
insane.
my God. I was,
And
I have like a segment here where there's something Coldplay related. And I
mhm.
had no idea that Coldplay was using the Erae Touch. Is it called Erae Touch?
Yeah, the first product is called Erae Touch.
Erae Touch. I had no idea they were using it. I promise you, I was playing it right now. Like, all right, I'm going to ask this as one of my questions, and it's related to Coldplay. I don't know. Did you guys have anything to do with the Lights tour, or are they using it in the Lights tour? I don't mean literally. Do you do anything with the lights? I mean the tour is called the Lights tour, and
I think it's for the last and current tour, which
yeah,
is
that's the Lights tour, and the
oh, it's
last one
called
is
Light Tour. I thought it was something like Sphere, Moon, something like that. No.
Ooh, you might be right. Sorry. The reason, oh, okay, you might be right. Because I went to one in Portugal last year, I think. Was it last year? Early last year?
Mhm.
And I think that was the lights tour. So maybe because there were a lot of lights, you
Yeah,
know?
there were. But well, there's basically just a couple of tracks where the I don't know if you remember, they had these alien helmets. They
Yes.
were then. So for these two tracks, which are quite short, they just remove everything from the stage. Drums, all the instruments, the synth, piano, they remove everything and they just place four Erae Touch in the middle.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah.
Damn. Like,
So I don't know if they still like do it every single time or, but yeah, for many months they were using only those products for the two songs. So that was insane. It's really hard to find some footage though. I'm waiting
yeah.
for their DVD still.
For the DVD. You know what? You need fan footage. Wow. Yeah, I was just kind of figuring out, trying to race through my mind, how on earth would you get footage for that? You need fan footage. You need, yeah, you have to go through Instagram or something and, look at the
Yeah,
tours and, front row people who are managed to like, that would be awesome. So you don't have any footage of them
we
using.
do, but it's like shot with an iPhone with like 3x zoom. And it's
That's a
kind of like
message to Tim Cook to fix the
yeah.
iPhone cameras.
So
Okay.
yeah, we're waiting for the full definition. Hopefully.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. Again, I keep cutting you off when you're telling a wonderful story because my mind gets blown at some
Oh
point.
no, I mean no problem.
That's awesome. All right, I'm gonna like switch gears a bit. I really didn't want to because you were telling the story about like Caltech, and then you made it to the second year as far as the company's concerned. You
Yep.
did your Kickstarter, boom, boom, boom. People like Coldplay were using your equipment on tour, and then maybe you can continue from there. I'm trying to like bring us
Yeah,
back on
so
track.
basically the first year was a slow start. Second year we started to like pick up a little bit, and then we decided that because yeah, one very important thing about what we do in our company is that we build sensors for our instruments. So yeah, I didn't mention, but after my year at IRCAM, I
Yeah.
spent more than 4 years in a robotics lab in Paris.
Okay.
At first, a part of it was my research as a PhD student and then postdoc. So I was working on making a new type of sensors
Yeah.
for gesture recognition.
Wow. Yeah.
And so in parallel to that, my co-founder Mathieu, who I didn't know at the time, was already working on a separate path in a synth company, developing other type of sensors. And when we
Right.
met in 2018, he came up to one of my show, then I came up to one of his show, and we decided,
Show. Pause. Show. Were you guys in the musicians separately?
yeah, absolutely. So
Okay, fine. He
I
came up
was
to one of your
pursuing,
shows. I just wanted to get context. So he
yeah, of
comes to
course.
your show, or you go to his show, and then continue.
And then we decided to build a new type of instrument that would combine both sensors.
Sensors.
Yes.
Okay, pause again. That's amazing. And I'm not just saying this for hype. Is that you got a background as a musician, right? You are you're doing your PhD. You're already studying, music from a technical perspective, but then you're also individually learning how to make and create your own kind of sensors as musicians. I don't know. Maybe you already know this. Maybe I'm blowing it out of proportion, but it's like that's the making of something very interesting is that if you have the talent, the art, the skill, but then from a technological perspective, you're already going to the foundation of it and create, because this is all about sensory, right? It's all about senses, in my opinion. Whichever way you want to like cut or slice the cake, is the experience of music is a sensory experience. And if you guys are in the modern world or in the future and you're creating sensors, this is the extension of our senses, you know, and it's the technological experience of our senses. Is now we create the sensors to be able to like, you know, communicate the emotion, the sound, the experience. So I really like that. Because spent hours talking about that. But yes, please continue.
Yeah, absolutely. The sensors are really a keystone in every technological development, and also for music technology, it's a very specific history because it's always been, well, music tech has always been pushing new innovations in wider consumer products. So I mean, I could go on and on about all the innovations in music tech that has been, widespread later on, like capacitive touch, the sensors that you have on every screen nowadays. has first been in a music product. It was called the Lemire. It was developed by a French guy in the early 2000s, used by Daft Punk soon after, and then the company got broke when the first iPhone came out pretty much at the same time. But this type of innovation is kind of makes sense because, we're not talking about the same markets as for mass consumer products like smartphones. We're talking about a much smaller niche market where some people dare to embrace new technologies and don't mind, if the product is either buggy or complicated, or if the user experience is not very well matured yet. Kind of nerdy type of people who are okay reading a manual from the beginning to the end and learning how things work. So yeah, that's not so many people, and sometimes it takes a lot of years for them to create content out of it. And this is another interesting part is if you look at most innovative machines that came out for music. I was thinking about this morning the Roland 303, for example, which really was a failure when it came out. I think it was completely removed by Roland a couple of years after it came out. And then later, 10 years later, it kind of became acid house. And as of today, listen to the latest Fred Again tracks, there's still some 303 in it. So it means that it's a very slow and organic start, but then it can have a huge inertia in the culture world, basically, in the music production world. So yeah, it's never like when you're doing music tech, hardware or even like software, it never like really blows up. When I'm talking about like music tech, I'm not talking about like Spotify wannabe. I'm talking about
you're talking about the machines, the equipment, the software for actually creating and producing. Absolutely, yeah.
It's rare to this date that a product just blows up quickly. It usually takes many years, and if you look at, even though like the most innovative musicians as of today, they're very often inspired by 20, 30, 40 years old electronic gear. So that's something to keep in mind. It's really hard to like bring a new product with a new way of interacting and expecting people to actually create something interesting with it in the coming years.
Yeah.
You have to be very resilient, and something can come up maybe 2 years after, maybe 10 years after, maybe never. You never know.
Yeah. So what happened? Take me back. You and your co-founder, he came on, he stumbled up, or he gate crashed your show, or you gate crashed his show, whichever one it was, and then you guys bumped into each other. Did you know each other when you met each other at the show? Was that a first time meeting?
No, actually, so I was. It was just a Sunday afternoon. I was walking down from one park to my place, and one of my favorite synth shop in Paris is called Modular Square.
Modular Square.
Yeah, I think it's closed now. Anyway, it was open on a Sunday, which is odd, and so I decided to enter, and there was some kind of party, and Mathieu, my co-founder, was actually demonstrating his latest product. It was a very niche modular piece of equipment, modular synth. And so this is when we first encountered. I took his contact and then invited him to my show that came maybe a couple of weeks later, where I was showcasing a prototype of the instrument I was working on during my PhD. So that was kind of synthesizer, one would say. using 3D cameras, infrared cameras, to track gesture, and gesture input would be then mapped to sound synthesis algorithms that I was developing using physical-based sound synthesis. That's very precise, but yeah. So that's a very niche type of synthesis where you try to not well. You try to reproduce the functioning of real instruments. So you model how a string would resonate, you model how a plate would resonate, and then you can combine different piece of blocks of algorithms together and create new sounds out of it. So there's nothing real in it. It's pure mathematical modeling. But the beauty of it is you can be so creative with it because you can change the physical parameters of the strings, the stiffness. You can create artificial stiffness. You can create artificial length of a plate, or you can even create different materials. It's all digital, so you can be very creative with it.
So do you have to programmatically define all of these different characteristics or gestures or interactions?
Yeah.
Like the length of the string, the stiffness of the string, the flexibility, are those parameters that are already preset, or is it a case of where you have to I guess maybe there is always the option to add additional parameters where you feel necessary to get the experience or sound you want, right?
Yeah, no, this is where it becomes really interesting is you can start with a very simple model where you just have one string, which is one length, one stiffness, and where you pluck it with what velocity you pluck it.
Yeah.
And you can go into so many other parameters combine with this with some resonant bodies, or if you want to say, okay, I don't want to pluck it with like the most simple excitation. I want to pluck it with something that would be a simulation of a bow, or like if I blow on it, or you can model everything, and from there it's becoming super interesting because the actual excitator and the actual way you excitate your string or your plate, you can use any physical input you want.
Okay, great. I like how you guys met. The walking home, this synth shop was not normally open on a Sunday. You don't know if it's still around today. You went in, there's this guy playing. Oh, this is interesting. I kind of believe in things happen for a reason. You get what I mean? And what if they were closed on that day? Have you ever asked yourself that question? What if that shop was closed on a Sunday night, as they always are, apparently, right? So things happen for a reason. And I kind of always use coincidence and fate to map the future. It's if this happened, maybe this should happen next, right? I kind of use it as energy and steam. We'll come back to team in a second. I want to ask you a question. Now, where are we? We are at the Choose France Summit. Do you know what the Choose France Summit is?
Yeah, I saw some pictures of Macron on stage with this kind of slogan. So I'm pretty sure I saw this somewhere.
Yeah, we're at the Choose France Summit. Yeah, it's a presidential dinner at the Chateau de Versailles. Oh, my pronunciation is horrible. Apologies. How do I say it? Chateau de
Versailles. I think
Chateau de Versailles. Okay, no, not bad. Pat on the back. I did French at school at 8 years old, and haven't revisited it. But it's in the subconscious. So anyway, you're at the Choose France Summit. Of course, it's hosted by Macron. And he's choose France, we do everything great here. We have got the best tech, blah, 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 blah. In one corner, there's Tim Cook. He's been there before, actually. Yeah. It's supposed to be the elite tech kind of dinner slash gala for like innovation in France, right? So if you haven't been, you should go. So anyway, in one corner there's Tim Cook. He's got a prototype iPhone in his pocket that hasn't been out yet. Elon is there as well. Elon has apparently been there as well. He's trying to figure it out, how to get like faster electric cars or whatever. There's a bunch of entrepreneurs as usual, founders, so it's a really ram-packed room of interesting people. Where are you? Are you on stage pitching something? Are you dance floor? Are you behind the DJ decks with some kit? Or are you like knee deep in a conversation with some VCs? What are you doing? What setting? Who are you there?
This type of scenario, Choose Friends Summit, I would be probably trying to pitch a VC in the back row. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. I thought you were going to say you.
I've done enough demonstrations on stage for these very generalist type of shows and demonstrations. They like our product because it's shiny, so they always invite us. Vivatech, Hello Tomorrow, all these European trade shows. They love our product. It's very funny. But
it is. I have to admit, it's visually it's yeah. It does the job, right? It does the job. I would assume sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, no, but I was saying just, but in the end, when you actually talk about investing in the company with some VCs, this is where it become more complicated all of a sudden.
Yeah. So. What's that conversation like? As in how, like, because you guys have raised, right? I understand, like a lot of tech companies, you're consistently on a funding journey. It's how it is, right? Somehow, whether it's funding through your community, your supporters, your backups, your backers, you guys manage to sell product, which is great. You're doing what you need to do, or whether it's like financing through VCs. But like, what's the situation at the moment? Obviously, what you can talk about, I understand. Maybe not everything you can disclose, but what I want to know, maybe let's start with like, what's the conversation with VCs like? And in general, the VC landscape for music tech. And again, we're speaking about music tech as in, hardware and software for creating music. We're not necessarily speaking about like, more like a Spotify or something. Like, what's the landscape like that? And how, are you going to general VCs? Are you going to specifics? And what's the tone like?
It's a really good question. And there's so much to answer. So trying to just organize my mind. Well, first of all, I would say there are some fields VCs don't really want to know about because they have bad history. So, for example, music tech is one of them, and hardware also is one of them. Especially in Europe, VCs don't like hardware. So when you do hardware and music tech and you overlap, you're like in the worst of everything. No one will ever invest in this.
Yeah.
It's like bad history, even the most successful companies in France, like De Vialet, I don't know if you heard De Vialet.
Yeah.
Very fancy speakers. Like they are kind of going down now, even though they had so many investors from LVMH, from like Xavier Niel, all like the richest people in France invested in it. They raised millions, and apparently it's not enough. I don't know why we're so incapable of, maintaining hardware companies in Europe anymore. It's just unreal. But it seems that only very niche brands can survive.
Yeah.
Every time they try to go, not even mass market, but like wider audience, it seems that the critical mass is not enough, or the charges are too high, or the production costs are too high.
Yeah. Just on that, and I want you to continue answering the question about the VC landscape, right? But I just want to know, when you say like Europe is tough, where is ideal geographically? Is there an ideal location geographically?
Well, it depends for what type of product you're looking at. I think France is still a good place because there's a high innovative ecosystem so you can hire like really talented people that you actually don't pay that much compared to the US. And they are trained with the skills that you will need. But then at one point, you will need some investment
Yeah.
to really scale up, and there will be virtually maybe the French investment bank, but they have so many conditions. We're right in the middle of it, so I really know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah.
you can get some money, but it's so complicated to get it, and you have to do so many other things to be eligible to get it that you might kind of waste your time and some
Yeah.
resources in
You
just
start to ask yourself, is it really like worth it, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
so like for example, I need to pay some consultant agencies to improve my green communications at the moment to be eligible for
Right.
more of this investment from the French investment bank. So it's like, do I spend this week trying to file these documents and pay all these consulting agents, or do I just focus on my product and try to reach out to new shops and new whatever? It's always a tough question. I guess it's making us more resilient if we got $100 million seed round like many Californian companies, especially for had to. Maybe would have crashed earlier and like wasted tons of money that we didn't know what to do with. So maybe it's just one organic and resilient way to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's our history. I don't know how it could have been done elsewhere.
Yeah.
We
Wow.
started to think about moving to California at some point. We have one subsidiary in the US. We have one employee based in San Diego. It sure helps. We go quite often to do trade shows at the NAM show, for example, or
Yeah.
the Flex in Anaheim and Burbank. And
Yeah. You just got back from NAM, I remember a few weeks ago, right, when we were speaking.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's like sure a tremendous energy there, bigger ecosystem. Half of our customers are based in North America. They're willing to spend money on new stuff,
Yeah.
new gear, new innovation all the time, and you can really feel the difference. It's it's really how to say state of mind. The state of mind in the US is different. People in France,
Yeah.
they would think twice before they buy new gear. So
Yeah.
in that way, I think doing any business in the US can be simpler.
Yeah. 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 I kind of thought that was the answer. And that's the typical thing that as founders or entrepreneurs we're facing in Europe. I started my journey just over 10 years ago as a music tech entrepreneur. Not music tech like you, more just like consumer apps and stuff. And part of our first funding was about 250,000 euros from the European Union to specifically stay in Europe. It was a fund that provided alternative. It's no more around. It was part of the Horizon 2020 fund. I believe it's called Horizon Futures now. I don't know the new name, but Horizon 2020 was a European fund for startups and tech companies. And they had all of these small individual funds, as you know, in between is typical, right? And this was specifically for us to use like their cloud operating systems, and not use non-European ones. And it was a long-term plan. So it's like, you get this grant, and part of the deal is you stay in Europe and you build in Europe. And because they're really trying to circumvent startups from, getting their grounding here in Europe and then going off to the US for growth. It's still a problem to this day. We have a huge market here. We have to figure out a way to solve it so that we can build on the ground here and go through growth and have mega unicorns staying here, or not even mega unicorns, but just really successful, profitable tech companies that are able to hire and keep their staff and keep innovating and keep building their dreams out, right? Yeah, we need to figure it out. Edgar, I've got a few more questions. Actually, I've got quite a few more, and I want to see a demo as well. Cool. So okay. So you're next to the VCs at the gala dinner. Smart move. I understand it. Are you currently fundraising by any chance?
Always. You want to invest?
I don't know. What are the details? What are the details?
It's a hardware company.
I'd love to invest. If this goes viral and YouTube cuts me a nice check or Spotify or something, part of that is coming to Embodme. Be honest with you. But what are the terms, or like what does an investment round look like?
So we are just getting prepared for Series A. We raised about 2 million in total before, in many different rounds through different.
So 2 million to date, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, euros. Yeah.
This includes also subsidies we got from innovation awards and stuff like that. So at the moment, we're trying to raise a Series A. We're going to start this Series A maybe like in a couple of months.
Okay.
Probably trying to get a few millions to start selling our sensors in different industries. And if you look up on our website, embodme.com,
Yep.
you will see there are two kind of divisions. One is for the music products, and the other one is for the sensors. And
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
so you can see what we've done already for automotive, IoT, but also display technologies. So we've been very active since maybe 4 years now in different type of conferences. Some of them
Yes.
are, for example, display conferences. So display in anything to do with screen technology,
Yeah.
where we know some people are trying to build upon capacitive touch technologies, and one of our sensors, Iris, could be a way to hover with screens.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at it right now. There's like awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like touchless plus touch screen, so you can hover without touching it, but it's not using a 3D cameras, which is just put on the side of the screen. It's like the screen is seeing, it's emitting infrared. Every pixel of the screen is emitting infrared and measuring the shadow that you would reflect.
Oh, wow.
And so that recreates a point cloud, and this is how we measure gesture in what we call the near field. And this
Near
is really
field,
what
yeah.
differentiates us, is that we have the only sensor, the only solution that enables to have this very last mile of interaction between gesture and touch.
Yeah.
And if you're using a camera, for example, here you see my fingertip, I get frozen. I can touch the camera, but if I shift to 1 centimeter on the right or on the left, you wouldn't see it because there's a viewing angle and it's quite limited. So what our technology does is it just gets rid of the viewing angle by having the 3D emitting sensors in between every pixel of the screen.
Yeah. Oh wow, man, that's some beautiful stuff. This is it's the kind of shit I love, honestly. No, seriously, I'm not just saying this. It's like sometimes I wish I went into like hardware and product and like, because it's like, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation for another time.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean,
but I get it. the question I have wants to go back to the near field, right? Technology, and what's what's the most advanced near field technology today that is used in day to day?
Well,
I'm
there are
just
not
curious.
so
I don't know.
many.
I'm just
Yeah, there are
curious.
not so many, but there are two solutions that exist out there. One is projected capacitive technology, where it can just measure the capacitive fields of the fingers, maybe a few centimeters above. And the other way would be to use just standard infrared cameras. Could be time of flight, could be structured array, could be stereo vision. So what this does is they would just put a camera on the bezel frame of your screen, on the side of your screen, and this would create kind of a virtual threshold a few centimeters in front of the screen. And when you cross out this virtual threshold, it would just send the information of this crossing with the XY position.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not 3D. It's kind of cumbersome in terms of industrial process. It's super hard to calibrate. So it never really picked up, even though it has been out there since the Kinect. So like long time ago. You know the Kinect? It was
No.
a sensor developed by Microsoft for the Xbox.
Okay, then I probably do.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like a video game
Yeah.
controller.
Yeah.
And there were quite a
Okay.
few games, but it was never really successful. But you had one Kinect in every research center of the world, literally. And researchers have been using it since then. Also in museums, you would see lots of installations using the Kinect. But similar story would happen with the Leap Motion. Do you know the
Yeah.
Leap Motion?
Of course, I know the Connect. Of course, yeah. I'm looking at it now. Didn't PlayStation have like their own version of theirs? I remember the Connect.
So
Yeah. I
yeah,
just
a
googled it.
similar
Sorry.
story happened with quite a few sensors like this, but it was
Yeah.
just never robust enough and sleek
Yeah.
and industrially easy enough to implement it in consumer products. When you discuss with like car companies or like smartphone companies to integrate your sensors, there's such a high level of like the stake is so high
Yeah.
that you need to be compliant with 1,000 like aspects of EMF. Is it certified for electromagnetic frequencies? Is it can it run under like 30 degrees and above 50 degrees?
Yeah.
Is it thin enough? Is it and the price, it needs to be so low. It needs to be just at a maturity level that no innovation can just be at this time. So this is why all the products that we have and that are released in 2025 are based on technologies that have been there for like more than 10 years
Yeah.
probably.
Makes sense. Makes sense because they kind of come round back to relevance and then there's more innovation to actually make them possible, right? To make their
Yeah,
use
I
case
was
possible.
shocked like discussing
Yeah.
once with a large display company that, for example, just for a standard screen that you would get, say 11-inch screen, building the facilities and the production line to get the same screen but bigger, like say 13-inch, would cost something like something in the matter of millions to
Yeah.
rebuild a facility and a production line for this.
Wow.
Billions of dollars for just a new model of screen. So if you want to add a new feature with a new sensor, it's gonna be a very large investment
Yeah.
for a company.
Yeah. Wow. Do you know what? Let's do? Right. With a few minutes we have left, let's get a demo in, and then maybe after that demo, you can give the details of your investment round.
Sure.
Yeah.
So can you see?
I can see perfectly.
Yeah. Then Okay, so this is the Erae 2, the second version of Erae Touch. And as you can see, there is a panel here which is touch sensitive.
Ooh, I like that. Okay.
It's covered with a new type of material that we came up with, which is kind of fabric glued on gel. So it's very soft.
Fabric glued on gel. Okay.
And it's got this, 3D touch sensitivity.
Oh man. Wow.
You can bend, so it's all very continuous. It's got this ability to play notes individually with their own expressivity. It's called MPE.
Yeah.
So I can play with the depth, the pressure I apply. If I move up, I can play with some effects. Here is a LFO.
Oh, okay.
And the cool thing is I can do this with different notes.
Wow.
So the cool thing is, the MPE enables the polyphony. So I can just bend notes individually in different directions. It's not like one big pitch wheel bend for all the notes. And you have also the release velocity, which is called the lift. So you can do kind of pizzicato. This is the same type of control on a different layout. So this is a layout where we can place the notes. It's called isomorphic. You can place the notes on a grid representation. Then here would be some faders. I can show you later. Some drums. And so these layouts that I showed, you can have as many as you want, and you can create your layout with a component software that we released, and you can download it quickly on our website. This Erae 2 also features a looper. So the looper is a way to record the gestures that you are doing. So I'll just press play and you see what I've recorded before.
Yeah.
So here I'll just mute everything.
Nice.
The first layout. All the notes that you see here are something that I've recorded before. So that's, the cool thing about the looper is you can just loop any automation, you can loop some sliders, effects, 2D faders, the notes. It's a MIDI controller. Erae is a MIDI controller. That means you have to use external synthesizers or VSTs, but it also features many modular CV gates, inputs, outputs. So it works with modular synth, and you can also use it as a looper for modular synth. What else can I say? Yeah, we could spend ages just going in the building of one layout and just routing it with one synth and some other synth. But the cool thing about it is really to be able to create one element that would control one synth, build another element that would control another, and just having the Erae 2 as the kind of mastermind of your studio, and being able to control everything from here with a very high level of expressivity thanks to the 3D touch sensors. So it's really both very configurable and expressive. That's the two key aspects of this product.
Configurable and expressive. Yo, congratulations, man. This is a really, really, really awesome product.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, it is. I can't wait to get my hands on one. Actually, I can't wait to like, my son's in the School of Audiovisual here where I live, and I may have to recommend them to look into this type of stuff. Awesome, awesome. I really, really want to try one out. I will make a plan at some point. I don't know how. Figure it out. Maybe. Yeah. We're just about out of time, and I'm almost out of battery. I'm actually going to cut this part where I say out of battery out. But really, what I want to do, I want to ask you two questions, and I hope my camera doesn't go off. But one question is just your investment round, and I also have a segment called FYT Fight, which is basically 5 years, 5 years from today. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to know 5 years tomorrow or today. I need to figure out what word I'm using. But what does it look like 5 years from today?
5 years from today, I would say we would have probably 3 more products in the music line, which would be more kind of accessible. And yeah, I hope that will start to be like a very, strong name in the music
I hope so too.
industry.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, I hope that all the efforts that we are, have been and are and will put in the development of B2B contracts will come up with some, it will come out to the surface where our
Yeah.
sensors will be embedded in cars and will be
Oh
embedded
wow.
in factories and
Yeah.
different industries, maybe airplane industries as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I think the future's bright. I love the fact that you guys have that strategy. You have the instruments, which is like where you guys came from, and then it's the sensors. It's like that is really exciting. You know. In closing, what do investors need to know? I know that the round hasn't officially launched, from my understanding, but
Yeah, so it's
how
a
much you're
very
raising?
good
What's the
timing
deal?
now for especially. Thanks for asking. It's a good timing for private investors now to contact to us because we are just finalizing a kind of small bridge with not too high valuation, and the minimal amount is not that high either. We are accepting
Sure.
checks from 10,000 euros. But then in a couple of months, this will be done. So in a couple of months, we'll have to close this bridge and we'll be on their Series A journey with only corporate VCs.
If you can't talk specific numbers about the round, that's fine. You said minimum is like 10,000 euros.
Yeah, so
So I mean, yeah.
minimum amount for investment is 10,000 euros. Valuation is, in private
Sure.
conversation, but it's not that
Absolutely.
high. And this will be probably possible to invest in the next coming 2 months. And then we'll go on for the Series A. So yeah, there will be a
Okay.
different valuation and different type of investors.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, great. Um, Series A, you prefer see like around summer? Do you have a timeline?
Yeah, so we'll start the Series A around in May. Our timeline to close it is until, like
Until it's
October.
done.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 Awesome. Awesome. Edgar, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Yo. It was a great pleasure on my side too, and good to be talking about the whole development. It's not something that I usually do, and it's nice.
It's a great story. It's a great story. If you have the opportunity to tell the story more, by all means. I think just for like users and for also investors, hearing the background of how you guys have come, I know we could have gone into more detail, but I think it also adds value to like, really getting and understanding people behind it. It's like this is something that was like from your studies to how you met your co-founder to where, like the research and R&D and everything to the inspirations till now. It's like, it's such a personal product, in a sense, and it's like a typical founder story, or something that they love or really interested in, and then voila, here's the final piece, and it continues. So keep doing what you're doing, man. I really like this. I'll be in touch with you anyway. I know you have to go now.
Thanks so much for the opportunity again.
I will keep you posted when this is going out. I'll be doing some promotional clips around it. So we'll talk anyway. We'll talk offline. Edgar, have a brilliant day, man, and thanks for your time.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Take care. Bye.